All right, with this demo, I'm going to kind of cover the kind of another new update to our ESS portal application in version 4, and this is called our suggestion scripts, or kind of suggestion engine. And this has not been incorporated into the CMS side. This is really only on the service portal side. But let's kind of show you how this interoperates. So, various pages you go to in the portal, you'll now see with version 4 kind of the suggestions for use section. And one of the things that you'll see here is I can kind of toggle on and off which suggestions I want to show for me. I could say my favorites, I've recently ordered, maybe I only want to see the featured items in this list. And I'll kind of show you where these different types of suggestions are defined in kind of a scripts table in a moment. But once I do that, it'll kind of refactor and show me just the items that display there. Another option I have, if I don't want to see the suggestions, I can turn them off by toggling the show suggestions, which if I kind of leave the page and come back, you'll find that it'll remember that kind of preference. So as I come back here, you'll see it won't show me my suggestions again. Another place where you will see suggestions are this kind of quick shortcut option. So you'll, under request something, you'll see here, notice it actually uses the same kind of settings or properties that I have defined for which suggestions or which kind of suggestion scripts do I want to leverage for displaying my items. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and add a couple more items in here just to make it a little bigger. All right, so a couple things where the user preferences are, just to highlight which user preferences are in play here. So you'll see these evg.suggestions. And just kind of start with that, and then they've got kind of a key in the end of this for SC, KB for knowledge base, biz service, and then the different users. And kind of what's in here, the kind of on-off settings. So this is in essence going to store with it in the value kind of the sys IDs of the different suggestion scripts that should be active. The other user preference is this show suggestions. So I guess I could look for show underscore suggestions. So you see the ones for me, and this is set to true or false. So those are the two user preferences are in there, and you could by default have a blank user, set up these user preferences so that by default that would be the user's preference to begin with as a starting point. Another thing I want to highlight, and you'll see this in a couple other themes, like if I go to kind of this now theme on the home page, the suggestions are plotted on the home page here. There is a separate widget specific for suggestions. Kind of looks like this, EVG suggestions. And this is not one of the things you have to pass into this is kind of which type of suggestions do you want to show, what kind of record type. And this is going to follow that same kind of key where SC is for service catalog of the request items, biz service is the business services, KB is the knowledge articles. So you'll see this kind of passing in the key. You can isolate or kind of display the suggestions just for a specific top level service catalog or knowledge base, as well as the number of items to display. So these are in essence the parameters that are passed into here. Just along the same lines, if I go to you'll kind of see that if I go through like a request help here and I go into a catalog, you'll see it will adjust and filter these suggestions based off the catalog that I'm in. Once I drill into a category, it kind of hides the suggestions and just kind of drills into just showing the catalog. But there is kind of two levels of this in terms of the suggestions that go across the full service catalog, and then those that get kind of subdivided by kind of the individual catalog you're looking at. So you'll see the same behavior if I go to knowledge management. Right, if I'm in the all catalogs, these are my various suggestions. If I drill into a specific one, I might get different levels of suggestions that are just displayed. Okay, so let's look at these suggestion scripts so you can see how they're built. Let's start with the kind of featured catalog items one to highlight here. So this is wrapped in a try and a catch just for kind of cleanliness, so if it runs into issues, errors, it doesn't, the user doesn't get issues. The order is going to drive kind of where it shows up in that list of on-off switches. The description is what the user sees as far as their selections. So if I come into here again and look at the selections, you'll see the names there. Correction, the label is what will show there. And then you see a linkage here to the different catalog or card object types. So you can define a suggestion script that maybe applies to more than one item. It can be, so you'll see for ones, for example, like our recent views. This goes across all three different types as a way to, and then there is some conditional code in here if the type is one table versus the other, then maybe some additional adjustments are made. But you can kind of script these to go cross types. So let's create one just to kind of highlight how this would work. So let's just, and then the other point I want to mention is, so there's a boost. And what the boost does is, so if I have multiple different suggestion scripts and the same, say, catalog item shows up as a recently viewed item, a recently ordered item, a featured item, what the boost will do is if it shows up multiple times is it'll continue to add this boost value to each of those kind of iterations or to each part, and kind of moves it up the chain. So if the item that I'm looking for is in multiple different kind of computations, then it gets a bigger boost than other items, which you'll kind of see in the script here, where we're basically saying if the item is already in my list of results or returned suggestion kind of items, then take its current computed weight and add to it the boost of this item. So you could end up having, if the item has been ordered a lot of times, also shows up in recently viewed, also as a featured item, it can get a score of maybe 300, and that will move it farther to the top than, say, other items. All right, so let's just add a new one here just to kind of hide this a little further. Let's just say, I'll just call this one Apple Catalog Items, and we'll label this as list of Apple catalog items. Isn't really a realistic example, but I'll just call this Apple items, and then I'm just going to isolate this to our catalog items table. I'll go ahead and add this for now. And there's really only one little change I'm going to make, and I'm going to leave all this the same, which allows for a kind of input of an appended query, allows for an input of kind of the top or the catalog in which it should be filtered. So these are some parameters that can be passed in to alter how the suggestion script is processed. So you'll see input dot something, and these allow me to kind of interact with parameters passed in. So this one was querying for feature, but now what I want to do is what I want to do is kind of show these Apple items to be kind of top of my list. So this is the query I want to run. Any of these ones that contain the word Apple, basically move those up the suggestions list. So if I go to our Apple catalog items, I'm going to just do an add encoded query here. We'll set this to name like Apple. And then what I'm going to do, just to really kind of overdo this, I'm going to set the boost to 500. And so the rest of the script kind of goes through, runs this query, loops through, tests if I can actually view those particular items if I can, then kind of builds the card information with the ID, checks to see if it's already in the list of kind of items that we've already got out there. If it's not, then it's going to insert a new item to be returned and the details of that. Otherwise, it's going to go get that specific item within the existing list and then alter its kind of score by adding our boost to it. So again, if Apple iPad's already in our list, it's going to, in essence, add a 500 boost score to whatever existing score that item already has. All right, so let's go back to get things. Now, if I look at my list here now, if I pull this up, you'll see Apple items is in my list. I kind of have to turn that on. And now, as I would expect, look at Apple shows up all top 5 here. All right, my Apple items was, if I go back, I had 5 items in the list. Right, my top 5 items here, because I gave it such a high boost, are those 5 Apple items in my list. So that's kind of how the suggestion scripts works. Hope this was helpful.